Okay, this is a, res- a response video, a reaction video to a channeling from Kryon that I haven't seen yet. I know I don't really like Kryon that much, so I'm gonna watch it as much as I can and stop every now and again. Let me just make sure I've got enough battery to keep this going. I think I have. Yeah, there's enough battery on there. So this is Kryon. This has never happened before. It was posted on the 12th of March 2021, and I'll do my best to get through it all, but I can't guarantee because it's 27 minutes of it. So I might do the first 10 minutes or so, see how we get on. Right, it's cheesy to begin with.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon.
You can tell by the music.
Service. Love has many faces. Compassion is the new word. And through all of this, there is the shift. I've spent a lot of time with all of you, giving you messages about what is possible, what you can do. The subject tonight I've already given you. It's about what was in the old energy and the truths of the old energy that you owned back then. We're going to call it the 5 great deceptions of the old energy. And all through this, we are describing something that was, not is.
Now that's interesting.
Dear ones, it's very difficult to give you the premise.
Right, putting it in the past tense describing what was is a very good way of doing it. So if you want to manifest something that hasn't quite happened yet, you describe it in the present tense. And if that means that something's in the past now that used to be present, you would describe that thing as in the past, which implies that the thing you want to happen is in the present. So this is quite clever so far. I don't like the music. The music was too cheesy for me, but that was quite clever in the way he did that. So that's manifestation. So this, I might be able to get some insight from this somewhere down the line, because it sounds like it might be my cup of tea. We'll see though.
Without it sounding like it would be insulting or less than. But humans are starting to grow up. Even as I sit before these groups and sense that which is the intuition, the God inside, even as I do that, I can sense the questions, the intuition. I can sense that the value of compassion is starting to show itself. The very personas that are here in the room and that are listening are elevated beyond what they were 4 years ago. There are new questions being asked that are wise, that don't necessarily reflect.
All right, so let's stop that there. I'm still only 2 minutes in, and I'll insist on talking about it. So the idea that compassion's a new thing is rubbish. It might be a new thing within the group of people that follow Kryon, but it's certainly not a new thing as far as Buddhism's concerned, or Christianity for that matter. So we're talking about a very specific group of people that aren't compassionate, that have now become compassionate. So ego-driven people that are now seeing the rest of the world as a person rather than a thing that can be used. So there you go. That tells you a little bit about the type of person that might be following Kryon if they don't have compassion and then they suddenly acquire compassion. Let's carry on.
Into an older energy. And And yet the biggest thing, the hurdle of all humans who are listening to this message is how to get out of the bias of the old. It has tainted you. It has affected you. It has made you less than you are. And so I'm here to identify them, and some will sound familiar. I've never given them in a package like this. This is a time of celebration because every single thing I'm going to tell you now is an old energy of the past. And yet you have to hear it. You have to hear it in order to have a check-off list to say, not anymore. Not now. And also for those of you who start to realize, well, I know we've passed beyond it, but yes, I still feel a little of it inside. You cannot have spent a life in one paradigm only to throw it away and reboot the computer completely within a few years. You have residuals of the deceptions that you carry with you. And maybe some of you have to hear it. When children grow up, there is such innocence and beauty in the innocence. There are fables and metaphors and stories and mythology that you will often give to your children to make them feel better about themselves. Things to believe in certain seasons, expectations.
Right. I'm going to stop that there again because I do kind of agree that the human race is growing up a little bit at a time, because I've certainly done a lot of growing up in the last 5 years. So I think that's just a normal thing that happens to people as they grow. It's taken me a while, but I did get there in the end. I don't like this parent-child metaphor that he's got going on. That dynamic of him being the parent and everybody else being the child puts him at the top of a hierarchy, and I don't like that. I don't do that as a thing that I accept. It's not something that I accept, and that's not something that he's talking about that's from the past. He's got that built into the channeling as the way that he addresses the audience as children. Even though he's claiming the children are growing up, he's still addressing the audience as children, and I don't like that at all. I find that a little bit, it's got too much built into it that's not questioned. So the idea of Kryon being the parent and the audience being the child implies that he's somehow got knowledge that we don't have, which again I don't accept, because we can all channel. I've channeled energies before now. 20 years ago I was channeling energies. I was channeling interdimensional energies, extraterrestrial energies, archangels, ascended masters 20 years ago, 22 years ago. So we can all channel energies. That's not something that's an issue. So we've all got access to the same knowledge. Deep, it's coming basically from your subconscious rather than from an extraterrestrial entity. It might be an interdimensional entity, but it's coming via your subconscious. So it's going to have your subconscious stuff built into it. So I'm not a fan of the hierarchy idea. I'm not a fan of the parent-child relationship idea. But let's carry on. I might be able to cope with another 5 minutes of this, and then I'll probably have to stop it. Well, let's see where it goes.
So that they will then be ready for life in a better way. And you know of what I speak. And that is appropriate for their ages. And then they grow. And as they grow, they have the wisdom to drop some of the mythology, some of the stories. They see a more profound truth. They begin to focus on that which is life. and the childish things drop away. I don't want to say the words, but I have to. That the old energy is filled with childish things. Things that humanity has dwelt upon in a paradigm that was deception. Because the old energy paints a picture of mythology. And I want to give it to you, item by item. And each one of these is a celebration because it's not there anymore. Number one, this is a teaching of the old energy. And the teaching goes this way, that everything repeats itself. And therefore, there is nothing new under the sun. And therefore, the future will then simply be more of the past. It gives a feeling of no hope when you realize there's nothing new. And dear ones, this is the way it used to be. All of the things that you had to look forward to were things that you could then tick off in the past that would come around and happen again. The old energy deception says that you will never climb out of human nature, which brought you war. And that no matter what happens tomorrow, it might be just a refreshing break. And then there would be war, because there always was. And the lie would be this: why would you expect something different than what you had?
All right, I'm going to stop that there because it's getting on my nerves a little bit. I mean, he's right in what he's saying. The old way was a circular repeating pattern, but he spent nearly 10 minutes, 6 minutes on a preamble just to say that we're not in an old pattern of repeating in a cycle. And it's really the difference between a circle and a spiral. An upward spiral is what he's talking about. That's the new paradigm, if you want to call it that. The Great Awakening is a spiral instead of a circle. So instead of horizontal circle repeating itself, you've got a slight upward movement going around the same circle, but a slight upward movement, which means that the perception is different each time you go around. And that's the Great Awakening. That's what that describes. I'm not sure whether it's the same thing as what Kryon's describing here, but that's how I would describe the Great Awakening. Whatever's happening on the planet at the moment is turning things into a spiral instead of being a circle. So we're moving out of blocked energy into a growth cycle for the first time in at least a century and a half, I think. Anyway, I'm probably going to leave that there because I've done 12 minutes or whatever it is. So 13 minutes. So I'm going to end that there because we've only got one of his points done. But I might come back to it. You never know. It was worth doing, though, I think, even though the music's cheesy. And I'll see you another time.